Good morning, fight fans. It is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Let's get into some fight news. Let's see what we got. All right. Arman Tsarukyan. Looks like Arman Tsarukyan is okay with fighting Dan Hooker. Here's what he had to say. Hooker or Gaethje? Most likely it'll be Hooker. I think they will book Pimblett versus Gaethje. So now Arman is okay with fighting Dan Hooker because he thinks the UFC is already looking to book Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Yeah, two great fights. Let's see what else we got. All right, let's see. Got some other news here. The UFC Apex will be out of action for the next 2 months. Clap, clap. 7 consecutive events will be on the road in June and July. And we have 2 UFC pay-per-views in June this month. We've got UFC 316, Merab versus O'Malley 2. That's this weekend, Saturday, in Newark, New Jersey. And then we have Topuria versus Oliveira, and that's at the end of the month. And that's in Las Vegas, UFC 317, International Fight Week. So it's going to be a great month or two, especially if you're not too much into the UFC Apex. To me, it really doesn't matter that much. I'm fine with any action because I got to make the winning posts and do the news. So I don't really get to enjoy it like a fan does. Sometimes I do. Here's what Merab had to say about Umar. Merab handed Umar his first loss. I believe it was late last year. I'd have to check the schedule, but in the last 6-7 months, here's what Merab had to say about Umar. I knew how good and dangerous Umar was, but I was ready for this challenge. I didn't feel any danger. I felt he was just another fighter, another sparring partner. Merab is definitely not concerned about Umar's skills. Wasn't then and isn't now. Here's some more news about Arman. Arman Tsarukyan doesn't agree with people saying Islam Makhachev moved up to avoid Ilia Topuria. Here's what he had to say. Jack Della Maddalena is going to be a tough fight too. Would be harder for Islam than the Topuria fight. So basically Arman saying the Topuria fight is far easier for Islam than the JDM fight. All right. Some weird Sean Strickland news. We'll skip it. Check our Instagram and Facebook. You can see some videos. He's beating up people on Aiden Ross's stream. Let's see what else we got here. I had some other news I wanted to touch on with you guys. Oh, this weekend is UFC 316. O'Malley versus Merab. So it's actually fight week. Monday fight week. Actually, yesterday, Sunday fight week. And should be a good card. I'm looking forward to it. 6 days away. Here's some Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis plans to shock the world and be the greatest. He says you'll find out. You'll find out. UFC 319 against Kamzat. Yesterday, the news was Alex Perez versus Steve Erceg, and that's UFC Vegas in August. That's the flyweight division. Macy Barber issued a statement after her hospitalization, seizures, and having to pull out of Saturday's UFC Vegas 107 main event. I'll read it to you real quick. Not what I had planned for a Sunday post. Thank you to everyone for the prayers and support. I owe an apology to the UFC, Dana White, Shelby, her opponent, Erin Blanchfield. P.S. My life is not messy. This is just a bad hand. We will get to the bottom of it all and be back. And that was Macy. Let's see. Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall News. I'll read you a little stuff from yesterday. John did a seminar in Thailand, and one of the fans asked him, "When are you fighting Tom?" And this is what John had to say. Tom and I have agreed to wait for the UFC to make their announcements. So legally, I can't really talk about it. It's such a weird statement. Weird statement. Anklov says Alex Pereira's turned down June, July, August, September fights and says Pereira is retired. That's what Ankelov's saying. Sean Strickland is picking Pereira over Anklov in the rematch. Well, of course he is. They're training partners. Who am I picking? Yeah, you want to know? I'm going to go with probably, I don't know, man. Is the fight going to happen is the question, right? But if it does happen, I think Alex has enough to, I think Alex wins it. I think Alex wins it. All right. Let's see. This was some interesting news. I wasn't going to touch on it, but why not? Sean Strickland news. Here we go. Sean Strickland claims that the UFC hires more Dagestani, Brazilian, and foreign fighters because it costs less money to the UFC. You'd make more money working in a Walmart. So basically, Sean Strickland is making fun of foreign fighters and the company he works for. Some weird news today from Big John McCarthy and the Weighing In podcast. Very weird, ancient, old news on Jon Jones. Not sure why this story's coming out now, but it's odd. I'll run it by. According to Big John McCarthy, Jon Jones SE assaulted a male commissioner before one of his fights. The story is lengthy. It goes into he was doing jujitsu with one of the commissioners and asked him some questions and went down to a region he shouldn't have. And evidently, John's coaches had to apologize to Big John and the commission later. That's a story coming out from Big John McCarthy via the Weighing In podcast. You can check it out on YouTube. That's about enough of that. Right. So it is fight week, and we should probably run down UFC 316 fight card real quick. I want to make sure we give everybody a little quick preview. So let me pull it up. I'm going to go right to the UFC's website because I went to ESPN's last time. It was way off. They were showing me fights that weren't even fights. They were canceled. All right, here we go. Lightweight bout, and this is the early prelims. We got Quillen Salkalid versus Yanal Ashmaus. That's a lightweight bout. Featherweight bout, Jika Saragi versus Jusang Yu, featherweights. Women's flyweights, Ariane Da Silva versus Wang Kong. Let's go, man, Wang Kong. And then we go into the regular prelims, Chaos Williams versus Uros Medic. That's welterweight. And we got the big boys, the heavyweights, Sergey Spivak, Waldo Cortez Acosta. That's a heavyweight bout. Light heavyweight, Johnny Walker returns versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. Flyweight bout, Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. And then we go to the main card. The main card. Here we go. Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, it seems like he fights every 2 months. Good for him. And then we've got Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix makes his UFC debut. Let's go, Patchy. Then we've got middleweight rescheduled from UFC Mexico. I believe Joe Pfeiffer got sick, said he's never going back to Mexico, blah, blah, blah. Let's go. Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pfeiffer. And then we've got the heavyweight. We've got the 2 title bouts. The co-main, Juliana Pena, the champion, versus Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison is a minus 625. Wow. And then the bantamweight title bout, Merab Davalishvili versus Sean O'Malley 2. And Merab is a minus 325 on this one. So there you go. We got 1, 2, 3. Looks like 12 fights. And that's Saturday night, UFC 316, Prudential Center, Newark, New Jersey. Wow. And then in 3 weeks, we'll have Topuria versus Oliveira. And then we'll have Louisiana, New Orleans, and we'll have the BMF. We'll have Poirier versus Max 3. So we've got like 6 weeks of some bangers, man. All right, that's enough for today. It's Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Tomorrow's June 3rd, my birthday. I'll be on here talking to you guys on my birthday. We'll go over what news we have. And if something pops off later today, I may come on again and make a quick video for you guys. Have a great day, and